Good afternoon, good morning. My name is John Heyob. I am in the aerospace division of Haggard Stocking. I have been here for 31 years. I actually started out as in the warehouse and as a part-time receptionist, and was fortunate enough to stay on long enough, not lose my job, for the aerospace division to come along. So with that, Herb.
Yeah.
So can you give us a brief, I know the origin story that I tell people,
Yeah.
and I use it as a sales tool, but if you can, see if you could tell us what your story is about how we got into the aerospace division and see if they match.
Okay. It was advertised in the paper that United was going to build this big hub out here, maintenance hub, and the state was going to give them multi-millions of dollars. And never dealt with airlines before, so I asked various vendors, what do they buy? What do they buy? None of my vendors in the industrial tooling and they primarily were automotive knew what they buy or do that. So I started shopping around, I got to find out, what's the opportunity here? So I decided to take a big step. I asked my wife, I says, would you like to go to San Francisco for 4 or 5 days? And my wife's middle name is Go, so we took off. And I packed a briefcase with Haggard Stocking giveaways, no pins and all this kind of stuff. We went out there and I booked a hotel as close to the United facilities I could. So we flew out, took a taxi, and actually we were about 3 blocks away. So I told my wife, I said, I'll see you later. And we got out there before noon. It was a long flight, but I packed and I go out. I didn't know where to go. I had nowhere to go. So I seen the big United sign, so I'm following the signs like a beacon. I'm going that way. So
and they have more than one facility.
And they have more than one facility. I had no idea where I was going. But it said United, so that's where I was going. So I went over and I looked around. I didn't really see, like a lot of companies have a big entrance or anything. So, because this is a maintenance facility, so they had one of these gates that's got the bars around the gate. And some people were going through the gate. And I thought, well, crap, I'll try that. So I walked up. Hell, the gate worked. I walked through it. And there was a building in front of me. And I went over to the building. And thought, well, I'll just go in the lobby. They go in the lobby. Nobody, and it wasn't a lobby really, it's just an entryway. So I go in there and go to the elevator, so I just started pushing buttons. So it was like 4 or 5 floors, just pushed all the buttons, So I went up to the 2nd floor and stuck my head out, didn't see anybody. Went to 3rd floor, stuck my head out, didn't see anybody. On the 4th floor, I looked out and I saw a woman sitting at her desk. Okay. So I went over and talked to her, and I said, I'm from Indiana. They're building a new facility, and I want to know if you got a transition team or somebody in charge. And her first question was, how'd you get in here? This is a secured facility. I said, oh, well, I follow people through the gate. And
this is obviously pre-9/11 also. So,
yeah, pre-9/11.
But still, you managed your way into a secure property.
Yeah. So she says, well, wait a minute. I said, well, I don't know. I'm just trying to find somebody. She said, well, I think there is a transition team. So she called, I forget who it was, somebody, and said, we have a guy over here from Indiana that wants to talk to somebody with the transition team, and he sells cutting tools and stuff. Who do they talk to? And so she put a gentleman on the phone, and that, I can't remember his name, put a gentleman on the phone, and I talked to him a minute, and he said, well, I'll tell you what, I can't see you today, but if you can come out here tomorrow around 9:30, 10 o'clock, and he told me what gate to go through, be glad to talk to me. So I said, thank you. So I went out the way I came in. I mean, I knew my way in, I knew my way out.
Right.
So I went back, and my wife and I had a nice dinner, and the next morning I packed my briefcase again and went out. And they had a transition team. So I sat and talked to them, told them who we were, what we're doing. I didn't know, we just come out. And I also told them, I said, look, if you need anything, let me know. If you're going to people transfer out, I'll put you in touch with realtors I'll help you out, help you on your transition. So it was a good call, and I started when I got back to Indiana. I started sending some real estate information out there, and just keep my name in front of them. And then they finally come back and they said, well, they have a young man being transferred out there named Ken McHugh. And and he was operating out of a trailer. And so as during construction, so I contacted Ken McHugh, and he met with me, and we went out and we frankly hit it off. We got along good. I told him I would help him any way I could. And I was able to basically help him get the materials he wanted. And he was one of the lead members in the transition team. So when they made a decision, actually they didn't even go out for a quote, because it was just a matter of they made it who could help them the most, and because one I'd done, we in turn were selected as a transition team by this transition team. So it was an experience. There's some funny stories. I don't know if you want to hear them, but we were invited to go out to bring a group out there who was in charge of our IT and our customer service, and who was going to be the account. And we were invited to come out to California and take a tour of a 75,000 square foot facility. And so we put together, and we had myself and John and Karen Berryhill and Tammy Farley. The four of us went out. But there's some funny parts.
The worst Chinese food I ever had was from the Chinese section of San Francisco, which is supposed to be the best. Do you remember we had lunch there? And I don't know what we ordered, but it was not pleasant. But so you mentioned when Ken McHugh moved into town, some of the things that he immediately purchased were rack and shelving.
Right.
That kind of leads me into another question how did we as a company expand our business and our product offering? What were some of those things based upon their needs that were different?
Well, it was different. I mean, you're talking of a major facility, and they had various hangars. And the biggest issue was they did not want they had a central crib, which is computerized, but they wanted to have the product out to the plane. And we'd never really done something like this, so come up with a deal where we would have the acrobins, and we would have min-maxes, and we would have these various bins on rollers around the plane. And the products was based on what area the plane was working on. And so we started putting bins around the plane, and as well as they had a tool shop. They had stores, so we were able to, basically we had people on site. We had Tiffany, who was an inside person. She went out to manage it, and we had several people out there that filled bins every day.
And you basically grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and threw me out there and said, go out there every day.
Every day.
Find out what they want, find out what they need, and take care of it.
He worked with Tiffany, and John became our airline salesperson. Actually, at that point, one person. Basically, I would say one airline. And from that, I went over to FedEx. And the gentleman over there, let's see, Leroy York. He says, what are you doing over at United? And I told him. And so we started talking, and he says, well, I'd like to try that here. So we started setting them up with Ben and got that. And we still have a contract with FedEx. How many years has it been now?
It's going on, it's going to be, I think 27 would be 30 years.
Yeah.
2027 would be 30
years, yeah. And it's been renewed a number of times, but we're always, like I spoke previously, we have a big company. They have the contract down in Tennessee, and they have continually tried to kick us out of there. But the local management here has fought for us because of the service that we provide. And I go back, the reason we're still there today is the service. The only reason we're not at United today is because they moved out of town.
Right.
But we still have other airlines out there. So that started us on our transition to airlines. And because of that, in the airline industry, there's a lot of movement. Some people from one airline moving to another airline to another airline. And because of that, we were able to get into some other airlines, you know. But it all based us, and we still get, you know, we get hit on all the time by the big companies. And but we still have an airline division, and we're still got some long-term contracts. And John does an excellent job. John in turn has been out there pulling airplanes. He sings to them. John's in a
Whatever
band.
it takes.
He sings to them. We've been out there. The guys like John said, well, they used to pull tricks on him. They'd call me up and say, well, we're going to set John up. You want to come out here and see what we're going to do? I said, sure, I love it. And but John's had a great relationship with a lot of people out there, and that relationship is what's carried it. So John is still a front man out there, and frankly, I just give him credit. John has a son that's in the music business, and he works part-time for us out there.
Well, you're very kind. I appreciate you saying that.
So John is very indoctrinated into and he's got his family indoctrinated into the airline business.
Absolutely.
So, but anyway, you know, it's just been another thing I haven't mentioned. We were a family-oriented company. John's father-in-law has worked here in the past. John's mother-in-law has worked here. Frankly, our CFO worked when he's retired. His sister works here. Fort Wayne has had a husband, wife, son, daughter work there. You know, I have family work here. So we're a family-oriented company. And it's really nice that people say, you know, I enjoy it so much, or I want my family to work here. You know, if we have, and they're capable, we have that. So John is one that's had probably more relation here than I probably have more than he does. But he's probably number 2, or maybe number 3. But it's been a family orientation, and we keep it that way. And my son's now president of the company. He's got 37 years here, or whatever, 38, and he's doing an excellent job. So it is a family-oriented company.
One of the things that when we started selling to the aerospace companies, there were some things that we didn't historically do. You mentioned material handling. We had a material handling division, but that obviously expanded.
Right.
And then safety. We got into safety. And so how did having those divisions sort of expand and get bigger, how did that help Haggard Stocking as a company sort of expand overall or compete overall with in all divisions, in all the sections?
You know, anytime you add a new area, it helps the other salesmen when they go in. It's amazing. If you go in on, it's kind of like they talk, you know, a rifle shot versus a shotgun. If you got a salesman who only has very few product lines, when he walks through a plant, he walks by a lot of opportunities that he doesn't have. If you take the shotgun approach and say, look, I now have this, I now have that. Now when you walk through the plant, you can capture a lot of these opportunities. So the airline forced us, because Ken McHugh was a great guy, but he demanded. He demanded a lot of things. Probably still does, but he demanded that if we want to grow with him, we have to get innovative and help him out. And so because of that, we got into, I never heard of a threaded shank drill before, or some of the other tools they had. But we had to find sources that did that. Right. So when we got that source, why be a one company source? So we said, well, there's some other airlines, let's go into that. Some of the safety items and what we did. Basically, it pushed us to have a broader perspective. Today, I can't tell you how many lines, but basically there's nothing that we can't sell because it's pushed us into areas, and we have product lines that we've never had and never thought I'd sell. I'll say the airlines comes up with some weird stuff. I've never sold gallon jars of Vaseline before. And when I heard we were selling Vaseline to the airline, I thought, man, what's going on there? Well, they used it somewhere on, you know, on their parts.
Yeah, sometimes they will use it as just a coolant on the drills.
Yeah, was that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay, but I never heard of that before. I mean, so they taught us a lot of things. You know, I still enjoy walking through the warehouse at times. I look at the inventory and I see things like, where'd that come from? Well, we're selling it somewhere, you know. And primarily it's been the airlines has been a big part of that, and some of our automotive has also been a big part of that. You know, we even get into now on gloves, they come back in here, we have to have them cleaned and certified or whatever. So we get into that. I never knew you could do that. So if there's an opportunity, we would like to take a look at it. Right. That's where we're at. We're very open-minded.
Right. Going sort of back to what you were talking about with United Airlines, I remember from an innovation perspective, of course this has been quite a while ago, but we had the bins up against the planes, or where they could just walk out and grab the items. But we also, that was one of the first mass uses of barcode labels, using barcode labels to order a product. That we had an in-house gentleman who kind of came up with that program and the whole thing, and that's where that started. We still use the barcode label system for, I think, a lot of our customers today. So,
well, it made a lot of sense. I mean, we were trying to find a way to be more efficient than somebody going out there trying to count a bin. But now we set the min-maxes, we set a barcode label, and you look at the bin, you shoot it. It's an item that's going to be repeated. So if you were 1 or 2 over, or 1 or 2 under with the min-max, as long as they had the bins full, as long as they had the item in the bin, it's the same thing. I never thought we'd be selling batteries, but we sell a lot of batteries, because the mechanics all have flashlights, and they all have to crawl through the plane into dark areas, and they need that. We even provide, the only thing really, there's 2 things we provide on an airplane, and that's the batteries for the emergency light, and fire retardant tape in the baggage area of the airplane. People don't realize that most of the insulation in the belly of the plane is taped on, and so we have to have a fire retardant. So we do have a certification program for our tape program, and on the fire retardant tape, because it has a certain age. Everything has a certain age there, and if it's past that age, when they're audited out there, they can get fined substantially. Another program that was developed by one of our airline customers is we got the American Eagle Award. Remember that, John?
Yep.
And that was because we developed a program on how they could trace. There was a point in time where mechanics were leaving razor blades on the plane, razor blade knives or whatever. And we developed a program that was able to track the usage and disposal of these sharp items. And because of that, we got the American Eagle. We were also nominated, and we were the Small Business SBA Business of the Year for Region 5, which is over Indiana, Illinois, I think Michigan, Ohio, and West. It's 5 states, whatever it was. And we were invited to go to Washington, D.C. for an award, and we're very proud of that. Very proud of that. So it has created opportunities. We like to be creative and do something that our competitors don't do. And I go back. Competitors have gotten so big now. Their salesmen are probably nice people, but I mean, their job is to go out, fill the bin, go fill the bin, and leave. Our job is to go out there and see what they need and solve a problem and bring ideas. That's what it amounts to.
In your view, how did the expansion of the airline division overall help with the company's vision long term?
Well, long term, I wanted the company to grow, but the airlines opened a whole new market for us. That I realized that people in Indiana, we had a limited market, but we basically had not really had any experience in it, and nobody in Indiana had any experience. But then with that, and like I said earlier, that some of these people that had left United, we got calls to go into Florida go into Texas, go into a number of locations. And so I always look at expansion doesn't have to be next door. The expansion, can be anywhere. Now, the only thing that I have been hesitant about is trying to expand outside the boundaries of the United States. That's a whole different ballgame. But we can expand and provide the service anywhere in the country. But the nice thing about it is if you got somebody leading the charge for you and has a business there, it's much easier to expand going into an area where you have business from the day you open. And so it has opened a lot of areas, and those areas have, and by doing that, the airline pretty much consistent, but some of them do things a little different. And so it also taught us how to work with warehouses outside the state. How do we set this up? This is another challenge for IT. We get it set up. The market has changed. So, we have now, you can dial, never thought we'd do it, a 3-digit extension number and you're in Waco. You can dial another number and you're in Florida or wherever, And so it brings it all. Looks like we're under one big roof.
Right.
But we stock there, we stock here, we drop ship direct to our warehouses, we transfer to the warehouses. So we're doing, like I say, we are a little big company.
Right.
And that has given us the opportunity to really, we can work with some of these companies that have multiple locations. We know how to do it, and we're doing it.
It's kind of helped strengthen some of the...
Oh, yeah. And without that, just saying we're an Indiana-based company and growing Indiana, I don't think we'd be where we're at today. Right. No, we wouldn't be at that. There's a lot of competition out there, so sometimes you got to look outside your comfort zone and see what you can do. But if you do, you got to do the same thing you do here.
Well, I would like, on a personal note, to say thank you to you
for
allowing me to continue here for the 31 years and hopefully maybe 10 more or so.
Well, John says 31 years. I knew him when he was in high school. John, in turn, and Craig, my middle son, graduated together, spent a lot of time together, and John come over to the house a lot. So I've known him since his teenage years. I could tell you some stories about the teenage years, but I won't do that on camera. That would be great.
I'd appreciate that.
And his in-laws, I'm just saying, his in-laws, I graduated from high school with. His father-in-law was one of my teachers. So when I talk about family, there's some...
My grandfather was
your grandfather was a teacher, yeah.
Yep.
It's very deep-rooted, very deep-rooted. So we go back, and I've always admired John and his creativity. And he and Craig really expanded that creativity. And that's about it, all I'll say.
There you go. That's right. That's a good place to end it right there.
So it's been more than 31 years, John.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
I'm glad to see you mature, see him get married, family, kids. It's really been an enjoyable trip. So.
Well, thank you again.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
And that's before you had all this gray hair, too.
Yeah. I will.